Hello everyone, hope you are doing well. A third of the way through the Premier League season. Myself and Gonzo love a good mass debate, so we thought it's time to start ranking off some West Ham players. Gonzo, you ready for a big mass debate?
Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it. I'd won earlier actually, but I'm ready. I'm ready to discuss some more hot topics. That's for sure.
Excellent news. Right, well, it's in the form of a tier list. We love a tier list at Hammers Chat. So there it is in all its glory. We've got all the players that are registered to West Ham's first team this season. If you go into West Ham's official website and click on first team, we've taken all of those players and we put them into the tier list. So at the top, we've got excellent. Then we've got pretty good. Then we've got meh. Those who are just a bit meh. Bit crap. You don't really want to be in there. And we've created a new tier for this season. It's called Can't Even Rate. Self-explanatory, really. So, Gonzo, we're going to kick it off with our first player, which is Nayef Aguerd.
Well, funny enough, you say Nayef Aguerd. Maybe you could say Meh Aguerd. I don't even know what Meh means. It sounds a bit like a sheep, but I think it means. I don't know what it means. It means average. Meh. I don't know what it means. Does it mean average? I think it means average. So
average, meh.
Okay. So just me with my coat the other day, wasn't it? I think he has been pretty average, really, hasn't he? So, do you know what the thing is? He's actually been excellent, and he's been crap. That's the problem. So what you do is you basically put the averages in. Basically, you put all the excellent stuff and all the crap stuff into the mixer, and it goes into the tumbler, and it comes out as an average mark. It must just be that. I mean, funny, we've got our player ratings book here, little cheeky little plug there. And if you just start flicking through and looking through the ratings, he does go from the brilliant, funny enough, to a red card, to the very, very poor, error-prone player who can be brilliant at times. He's going in that meh section.
And what you don't know is I've actually got all your player ratings in front of me.
You've predicted what I'm going to say.
No, Stephen collates all the player ratings over in Patreon. So I said to Stephen, can I get Gonzo's ratings, please, so I can get his sort of organic hammer of the year so far? So I've got it in front of me. So I'm looking at your Aguerd right now, and you gave him a 2 against Brentford. You give him a 4 against Liverpool. But you have given him an 8 against Arsenal and 8 against Freiburg. So he's had some big marks and poor marks, which is what you're saying. I agree with you. The funny thing is he's not really been meh this season. He's been really good or really bad. But the average is average. So I agree with you. No complaints from me. Any goes there. Nayef Aguerd goes into average. I have to say, though, I've been disappointed by him. He was a bit like this last season. But I sort of thought, okay, that's his settling in period because he missed the first half due to injury. So the second half of last season was actually him settling in at West Ham, really. So I thought this season, clean slate, let's see the £35 million defender we bought. And I think we've seen it. But we've also seen like the 0.5 million version of him as well on time.
Yeah, we've seen Paul Hilton as well, yeah.
So, right, next up we have got, I think... Yes, it's Michail Antonio.
Well, he's been a bit crap. Maybe I'm being nice. He's been a bit crap. He absolutely has been a bit crap. He can't even go into the sheep category. That's for sure. No. I can rate him.
You're about to say you're quite convinced by this. I would put him in there.
Would you?
Yeah, because I think he had a decent enough start to the season, and this is over every game he's played, not just the last month. The last month he's been crap, but I think the first month he was all right. Actually, I thought he was quite good the first month. But I think it's probably here, really, isn't he?
Huh?
He's here. He's sort of in the middle of the two.
I don't think he is. I think he's a bit crap. Feel free to drop a comment in the comment section. Tell Geo why he's wrong. Everybody.
I'm letting you win. I'm going with it. I put him in the crap one because when sometimes one of us will be really determined that we're convinced, sure. And you're sort of you're arguing your case. I mean, I'm looking at your ratings. You gave him a 9 against Brighton and 8 against Chelsea. However, the last few results haven't been great. An average of 5.2 for Antonio this season.
What was my average for Aguerd?
Your average for Aguerd is 6.
Okay, yeah, okay. I still think he's been a bit crap. So, but that's the eye test rather than the statistical analysis, which is the player ratings, if you want to call it that. Makes it sound much grander than it is.
Yeah, in a weird way, I think it might become you never want to see a player play badly. However, I do think what it does do is it forces West Ham's hand in the January transfer market a little bit. And last season in particular, when we only had Antonio as a striker, it felt very risky. And obviously we've got Danny Ings in. And had between them, they'd been scoring enough goals this season, we'd have probably avoided the striker issue until next summer, perhaps. We just thought, right, what we've got is fine. So because of the form of Antonio and the form of Ings and the exclusion of one other we'll get on to, I think what it does do is say to West Ham, you need to get involved in the January transfer window here, because we're using Bowen up front now. We're sort of shoehorning someone into a position where he has had some experience before. But I'd argue, and I'm not against seeing Bowen as a striker at times. I was all for it. I still am all for it. But what we are doing is arguably, and I would suggest this, is taking our best player out of his best position because someone needs to play up front. So
if only we'd had some indication at some point over the last few years that we might need a striker, we possibly would have bought one by now.
Maybe. Well, we did.
We did.
To be fair, we bought two. Right then, moving on to HelloFresh. What do you make of HelloFresh?
Oh, I'll tell you what. That's not meh. It's definitely better than pretty good. HelloFresh is excellent. But you knew I was going to say that because I'm a bit of an evangelist for HelloFresh. HelloFresh, magnificent. Let me tell you what it is. When I used to think HelloFresh was just people getting vegetables ordered to their door. It's much more than that. You get the complete meal. You order the recipe. You look online. You think, do you know what? I want the curry. I want the shepherd's pie. I want the just beautiful a duck with a sort of red currant jus ones, which makes me sound very posh. I'm not, and I don't need to be, because that taught me how to cook it. The recipe came, the ingredients were all measured out. It was a step-by-step guide, and I got to tell you, my girlfriend thought I was a culinary genius. The best thing about it is I've managed to keep that skill set, and even now I use some of those old recipes. Even when I haven't ordered HelloFresh, I use those recipes before I go and use the old recipe book. Old Gordon Ramsay and your mate Jamie Oliver, they've not seen the light of day for many, many moons because I'm using HelloFresh. Really good stuff.
Well, there you go. You want to expand your knowledge in the kitchen and save a bit of time when you're cooking, head over to HelloFresh. But it's the best time to do it. While myself and Gonzo are discussing the player performances so far, it's the right time to do that. But it's also the right time to join HelloFresh because it's Black Friday offer time. If you use our code or the link, which is all in the description below and on your screen right now, you can save 60% off your first box, 25% off your next two boxes. But here's the Black Friday offer. Free desserts for life. Every time you order a HelloFresh box, you will get a free dessert thrown in from them as well. So you can join Gonzo in expanding your knowledge, cooking for his girlfriend, pretending he's a chef in the kitchen, or you can be a bit like me and just learn new recipes, new ways in the kitchen, and lie to people. I lie to people. When the guests come around, I pretend I made it from scratch myself. I haven't.
Can I just clear something up? That day, you lot don't get to cook for my girlfriend. It's me that cooks for my girlfriend, just in case, I don't want any small print or anything like that. I do that.
Anyway, links in description, codes in description. Head over to HelloFresh and grab yourself that offer, including free desserts for life. While you subscribe to HelloFresh, you get free desserts. Right, Gonzo, enough about cooking. We'll get back to the footballers.
Yeah, indeed.
Next up on our list, we have Edson Alvarez.
Oh, pretty good. Actually, you'd have to watch Curb Your Enthusiasm to understand what I did there. But yeah, I'm very, very pleased with this player. What a great signing he's been. I didn't know we needed one, actually. When I say one, I mean a defensive midfielder. I think I was so used to Declan Rice being there and sort of doing multiple jobs. I sort of hadn't really considered the fact that we'd maybe needed a specialist. We got one in, and I thought the team might lose something in midfield because Declan could sort of do everything. Actually, I like it. I like this guy being there. And actually, I've got to say, his technique is far better than I thought as well, because you heard that he used to be a centre half and he was turned into a midfielder. He's got quite quick feet. I think he's got a good eye for a pass as well. It's not all sideways and backwards. He will try and move the ball forward if he can. And actually, I think he I'd like to see it a little bit more. Actually, sometimes something you mentioned before about Paqueta on occasion playing a number 8. I think when he's next to Paqueta, I think they do play quite well with one another. So well, in fact, the commentator for the Olympiacos game got them confused. And Emerson as well, thought they're all the same person. There you go. But a really good player. Excellent signing.
Yeah, I think that's an easy one to put into pretty good. I don't think he's been faultless, and I don't think we've seen the best of him yet either, but I do think he's growing. I think he's made the role his own anyway. He doesn't have any competition for it, to be fair, at defensive midfield. A couple of poorer performances, but I think that's when we sort of switched tactics and formation a little bit and sort of went to like a double pivot rather than that 4-1-4-1, if you want to call it that, or 4-3-3, however you want to word it. That we've seen at the start of the season, and then we've seen it against Nottingham Forest with Alvarez sitting more and be more central, but sitting in front of that defence. Whereas against other teams like Olympiacos, where he was getting forward a little bit and pressing. I don't like that. So I like to see him just staying as a defensive midfielder, takes responsibility. We always need someone that can go get the ball from the centre-backs. We had it with Martin Noble, then we had Declan Rice, and now we've got it with Edson Alvarez. It makes a huge difference. I think he's one of the first names on the team sheet. And I think when we next do this, let's just say 25 games in or whatever, I'm sure there'll be an international break after the new year with the Euros coming up, the friendlies and whatnot. I would expect Alvarez to be an excellent. Yes. When we do this, there'll be some players I don't expect to move up tier or down tier or whatever, but Alvarez is someone I feel quite confident that we will actually be promoting him up to the excellent tier. And if we don't, I think something's gone wrong. I think it's a fair expectation as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right then, next up, we have got Anang.
Oh.
There we go. Can't even wait. That's why we created this tier, not just for Anang. He's going to have some company in there as we go through.
It's not his fault, by the way.
No, we haven't needed him. We could put him in excellent. I'm sure he's been good. He's been on the bench doing nothing when required, and he's ticked the box for the club trained players for the Europa League squad as well. It's like Gonzo said, it's not his fault. We'll put him in can't even rate, but he will have company for other reasons as we go through this. And episode 2 will be on the forum channel as well. We're only doing half the players in this video. You might be thinking, hang on a minute, I'm halfway through the video, not even halfway through the players yet. There is a second episode to that. You can find it on the end slate at the end of this video. From one goalkeeper to another, Gonzo, Alphonse Areola.
He's been pretty good, actually. I think he's been pretty good this season. I think he's made the first team. That lovely green shirt, his own. And well, I say his own. There's 3 of them there. They got to share it. But he's been good. He's been good. I think he's been patient as well. I think there's been some reward for that as well. I guess you're going to tell me what my average marks are for him. But
6.6.
That's good.
That is good. He's got. Well, I'll give you his Ham of the Year so far and his average, and there's not much in it.
Yeah, and that's when you break down the average games, and we saw this because last season was the first season we did the player ratings. When you break down the average over the course of a season, sort of the better, I don't think hardly anyone got 7 over the course of the whole season. It just happened. So actually, that's a pretty good rating. Yeah, I think he's been good. Some really good saves. Picking a good time to do it actually, because we just recorded this after the Forest game where he had a couple of absolute peaches, didn't he? So yeah, really good.
I actually think he should be an excellent. I think he's been fantastic. I think he's been man of match on 2 or 3 games. He's been crucial to the victories at the start of the season against likes of Brighton, where he made save after save. And not only was he getting a quantity of saves, and it was the quality of them as well. Another sort of worthy match-winning save against Nottingham Forest. It didn't go on to win us the game. We won the game, but not because of Areola's save per se, unlike against Brighton. But some of his saves have been tremendous. Against Aston Villa, we still conceded 4, but he still made another fantastic save there as well. I honestly think Areola's been excellent this season. So we'll leave him in pretty good, but I think he deserves to be in the top category, actually. I think he's been superb, but unsurprising. I think this is what we expected from him, to be honest with you. So yeah, I'm more than happy with what I've seen with him, and yeah, a real top goalkeeper in there. An interesting one coming up though, Saeed Benrahma.
He's been crap. He has been crap. Yeah, I was going to say it's not his fault. It sort of is. Yeah, I mean, what can I say? I do look. The mitigation is I do think he's been moist, which was what happened to Fornals. It's weird. I think he came in and he won the confidence. He finished the season so well, obviously, scoring a goal in Prague, and he's got real steady nerve about him from the penalty spot. But did not start the season well. He's indecisive. His decision making is wrong. He's as I often mention, look, he is a winger who, by and large, most of his opposition players are faster than him, and that's not good for a winger. Most fullbacks are faster than Benrahma, and you could probably get away with that if you're strong. You could probably get away with that. Actually, I would suggest most opposition fullbacks were quicker than David Beckham, for instance. I know I'm choosing, but I only use that as an example, but that's fine. So what he did is he developed a skill set that negated that. So he would cross the ball from deep very, very early. Side Benrahma can't do that. Even if he could, he's playing on the wrong side to do that anyway. So he'll always have to take a touch to get onto his stronger foot. Unlike Jarrod Bowen, he can't really cross with his weaker foot. So he's an effective bit for a crap start to the season, really.
Yeah, if he was as quick at making a decision as you were about putting him in a bit crap category, then he'd be all right. He just slows play down. I don't think he had that great a season last season. I remember doing the averages, and at the start of the season, he was quite high up. He was sort of the best performing player. However, there was an asterisk next to that, and that was Bowen was rubbish. Paqueta was rubbish, Yes, okay, Moyes hadn't worked. We know why Paqueta was rubbish, but Paqueta wasn't performing. Bowen wasn't performing. Nobody was performing. So I think it was quite easy to be the better player in that team because all you had to do was be average and you were better than the other ones. But by the end of the season, his rating was one of the lowest ones because everybody else had started to improve as the season went on. This season, I mean, I think he only scored one goal from open play last season. I mean, that was supposedly him having a decent season. This year, he's slowly becoming not an option. And when I speak about Alvarez will move up a tier, and I'm quite confident. I'm not confident Benrahma will move up a tier. I think he's going to stay in bit crap for the rest of the season. I don't think he's been moist. I think he's playing the same way he's always played, which is he slows play down. His decision making is not great. When he does make the right decisions, his execution isn't particularly good. And when you said about how Beckham carved a niche for himself, I think Benrahma's done that as well. Cut inside and loft it slowly beyond the bar and far post and out for a goal kick. I think that's the way that he goes about things as well. I don't think he's been very good whatsoever. He's one of those players that if he was to leave, I wouldn't be that bothered. I think he'll go down in history for West Ham for his goal in the Conference League final, and he's popped up with some important goals and some big moments for us. But this season, he's been poor. It's got to that point, Gonzo. I'm not even asked if he comes on as a sub anymore. Sometimes in his first season, because he was new and he had that bit of excitement about him, we wanted to see more and more of him. Well, I've seen him now, and I want to see less and less of him. No. Bit of a shame, he's got in his locker, and he'll be a good player for someone. Just take your pick out the Championship. Anyway, moving on, we have got Jarrod Bowen. An easy one.
It is an easy one, right up there. He's been on the HelloFresh. He's been on the duck with the red wine shoe, or whatever it was. His goal scoring record. We were discussing it yesterday, weren't we? In the player ratings video, whatever we did.
18-12 in the Premier League.
That's very good.
Only Salah and Haaland have more.
I mean, how good is that? The players he's keeping that sort of company with are absolutely superb. We're very, very lucky to have him. Well, not lucky. We scouted him and we bought him, but we I feel great. I feel grateful for it, and I feel that when we're playing, he's likely to score, and the stats would back that up. Most of the time, he does, and he's being moved around and tried in different positions. And there's been a couple of games where he's particularly played up front, but against teams that are sitting back, which doesn't suit him. And look, he's still managed to pop up and get a goal. I think he can be effective all across that back three. That front three, not that good. I'd like to see him sometimes a little bit more played on the left. I know I keep saying it, but I think he would be very, very good there as well. I think you get a very early delivery with him as well. So just a really good player, mate. And yeah, you're quite right to put him up in the excellent category.
You've given him a 6.8 so far, which is your second highest average. There's one player better than him. You can probably guess who it is. That will come as no surprise to people. But again, there's not much between him and the guy that you're rating top so far. If you're wondering what we're doing, over on Patreon, we do player ratings after every single game. We mark them out of 10. It's quite simple. 5's average. 3's pretty poor, 7's pretty decent, obviously 10's excellent and whatnot. You can work it out, but that's where the average ratings are coming from. Love him, absolutely love him. I'm pleased. This is where the difference between having belief in a player's ability comes in. Not this season, last season, because whilst Bowen was poor last season, he's the first one to admit it, that the pressure of the World Cup squad got to him and that sort of impacted his season and whatnot. He had a poor season last season by his standards, but we still wanted him to play every single game. He probably deserved to be dropped, and he probably should have been dropped for some games, but he wasn't. Moyes kept his faith. But you could completely understand why, because there was almost an expectation that this would come back again. This form, this Jarrod Bowen we're seeing now would come back. And I think Moyes perhaps thought it would come back sooner than it did. But I think the fan base also felt this Jarrod Bowen would return. We would see him again because he's got the ability. He's got the right attitude. There's never an issue with him at all. He's been at the club for a number of years now, nearly four calendar years he's been with us. January 2020, he's been fantastic signing, becoming not quite, there's the likes of DeCanio and Payet, but pound for pound, he's becoming one of our best ever signings, especially in the modern day. I think he's sensational. He is sensational for our club. That what we're trying to do, which is break into the top 6 of the Premier League. I don't know what he's done in terms of his heading ability, but that seems to have drastically improved this season. I think we had a look earlier on the season. I think he had 3 shots last season in the Premier League with his head. He's probably scored 3 this season with his head. So I don't know what it is, but he's somehow added that to his game as well. I just think he's a fantastic player. I don't have enough plaudits for him, to be honest with you, Gonzo. There's not really a weakness. Any weakness he does have, it's sort of like lack of pace. It's not really his fault, but he's then able to use his body pretty well when in a race. He's able to wiggle in front of opponents, and he's not the biggest or strongest person, but he's able to use his body, but like Paqueta, really well to guard the ball and stuff. Yep. I don't have a bad word to say about him. I absolutely love him to bits. He's the poster boy of West Ham. I think he's thriving in his new role, and to hear him say he wants to become a legend of the club, when he said it, not only was I pleased to hear it, but second of all, I thought, do you know what you're going to go do? You're going to You are going to go on and achieve that status. Yeah. And can't wait. We'll be doing this video in 4 years' time, Gonzo, discussing Jarrod Bowen, and he's possibly the only one today that we'll be discussing.
If we're still at stadium, it'll be one of the bridges. It'll be the Jarrod Bowen Bridge. No doubt about that.
Bowen Bridge. Maxwell Cornet.
He's pointing at you, actually, Geo. I can't even rate him. I'm sorry to say I cannot rate him. And, I am genuinely sorry to say that. I really am.
He's got an average rating of 4.
So I have rated him. But yeah, you know what I mean.
I know. Just being mischievous.
Yeah. What can you say? I deserves a chance. If I don't know this, if what he was serving was a punishment, I think he served it, I think if you
get rid of him. Get rid of him. In the summer, get rid of him.
I'll get rid of him. I'm pretty sure if you ask David, I'm pretty sure if you ask most people, actually, generally, as a generalisation, do people in life deserve a second chance? I bet David Moyes would say, "Oh yeah, of course, I believe in that. Absolutely, I believe in that." I'm not sure he's got one. I do think he made a silly error by going and getting his treatment in France, which took far longer than it needed to. The specialists. Let's be fair. In pretty much every country in the world.
Right. Me and you are treatment. I'm going to defend him here because me and you are not medical experts, clearly.
Wow. Speak for yourself.
You're definitely not a coat specialist either. But when we found out what it was, and we couldn't even tell you what it is because it was a very rare thing, and people haven't seen it in football very much. And people haven't seen it very much. A very rare injury he had. Why would he not go see a specialist in France? Why would he allow the club doctors to treat it if they've never seen it before. I think I'm assuming he's gone to someone that's had experience with this particular injury type before. I get why he's done it. I do. And, West Ham, with the greatest respect, haven't got the best reputation for dealing with injuries in the past. I think that's got better in the last few years, and I don't think it's got enough credit the way that we've done something in the medical department, because Kurt Zuma's forever fit, Michail Antonio is forever fit. So to have those two really injury-prone players playing every single week, someone's done something really well at that club. But I don't blame Cornet for doing it, and I struggle to believe he would have done it without permission from someone at the club. I don't think it's not like he's gone AWOL. Maybe he did, but I just and if that is the case, fine him, and then in the summer sell him, or like you said, wipe the slate clean, and go again. And I just think, speaking of second choices, we're far enough into the video now for this not to be controversial. Only people that like Hammershire are at this point in the video now. But Moyes stuck by Kurt Zouma when he booted a cat across the kitchen, right? So the guy going to France for treatment, I think it's easier to give him a second chance.
It's clear. That's clear bias. He prefers Kurt Zouma as a player. That's the issue. That's the issue there. So because of that, he'll give him a little bit more leeway. I think it's one of those things with Cornet. I'm not even suggesting he's a world beater, but there have been times when the qualities that Cornet has have been exactly what we've needed at the pitch in a given point in a football match or whatever. And I wouldn't be surprised if he goes and he plays elsewhere. And I don't mean he goes and, he comes back and he scored 30 goals in a season or anything like that. But we look at him and think, actually, there's a player there and we didn't get it. And there's certainly been times when either Fornals or Benrahma have been on that left wing and they've been bloody awful. And what would be the harm of giving Cornet a go? So, yeah, it's a shame.
It's the guy that can play about 4 different positions, and he hasn't had a chance yet. He can play on the right, he can play striker, he can play the left. He played left back for Lyon as well. And we played lesser opponents in European competition where Emerson could do the rest. Emerson's been suspended for a game.
Sure.
So don't want to see him left back, no. But what I'm trying to say is this guy can play. He's had experience in numerous positions in the past, and he can't get a game in any of them at West Ham, which suggests it's more the man rather than the player that's the issue here. Moving on to Lucas Paqueta.
He is excellent. He is he's world class, I think. Thank goodness for everybody else in the world that he is not fast, because he's got pretty much everything else. His strength he's a big lad. That's the thing. The first thing to say is he's over 6 foot. He's a big lad, so he can look after himself. He's got all the skills in the world, but he doesn't do them to be overly flamboyant. He appears his decision making with skills seem to a lot of the time be spot on. So he will apply the appropriate skill at the right time in a match to either shield the ball or beat the opponent or create the space to make the pass that he wants to make. That's just very, very quick decision making, which I just don't think you can. I don't think you can teach, because if you could, I think you could teach it a little bit. Otherwise, people like Benrahma would be coached, they'd be trained, and they get their decision making right. I just think it's that split second thing in the brain. He's got it, and because he's honed his technique as well, he's so good. Finishing's really good as well. His attitude has been spot on. He's had a lot to think about. You cast your mind back, and it was actually I remember David Sullivan saying, "We've tried to keep him, we can't keep him. He wants to go." But he said he'll give his all. And that's why all that was happening was we were negotiating the final fee with Man City, who wanted to pay more or less what his release clause would have been next season. We were trying to get 100 million for him, right? And Man City, I think we're pretty much saying we can get him for 84, 85 next season. So all that was a financial negotiation. They would have come to a compromise and it would have happened. He didn't allow his head to be turned. Then he would have been really disappointed that he didn't get the transfer that he wanted. He'd have loved to have played in that Man City team. Who wouldn't? And then he's obviously had the FA investigation as well. All the while, it really takes something to keep your head. I remember years ago, and I know it was slightly different, but it was Lee Bowyer and Jonathan Woodgate. Both got both were facing. Well, they were facing criminal convictions more as much as anything. One of them crumbled. And I totally get it. I really do. He just couldn't play football. He was so worried and concerned about what was happening in his life. And one of them just carried on. And Paqueta's like that. He just carries on. Look, he's got his faults. He's a bit divey. He's a bit moany. He's a bit whingy. But I've got to say, I would hate, if he was an opposition player, I would hate him because he was so brilliant. But he's niggly and there's, you know, there's a lot that frustrates me. But I do believe he's world class, and the fact that people are even talking about him and Payet says everything.
Starting adding goals to his game as well. You know, it's surely one of the most difficult things in football is to make 45, 50 million look like a bargain, but he's somehow doing it. And I'm hoping this betting scandal rumbles on for a little bit longer, truth be told, because, you know, in the summer, like you said, an 85 million release clause, he's off. But if we can somehow drag out this betting scandal, it's almost in West Ham's best interest that this rumbles on. Obviously, it's in Paqueta's interest, it gets cleared up ASAP for him as a player, for his integrity, rather than never mind his move away from West Ham, should he want one. And I think he probably does, but only to certain clubs. Because you've seen, like you said, you've seen the reaction from not getting his move to Man City. He's just got on with it. He's such a fantastic player. We've seen against Olympiacos where he was poor for most of the game, and bang, pops up with a goal. And there you go. That's your talent for you. It's players like that can be doing nothing but turn up for 2 minutes and win the game on his own. Few and far between. But I enjoy watching him. I really enjoy watching him. He's an entertainer, and like you said, he's not doing skill for the sake of just doing skill. He actually has a purpose as well. What a joy to watch. And he'll be one of those players that, a bit like Payet, when he does go, if he does go, you'll be like, I'm just glad I got to see him at West Ham, actually. Hopefully we can find an adequate replacement. Yeah.
What I will say is, when he goes, he will go. It will be more like Tevez than Payet, because what will happen is he will go, and he may well go. It could go at Man City. He could play for anyone. He could go to Real Madrid, and he will not be the star man. And he you know what? The thing is with those clubs, you don't even necessarily get your own song, right? You just become a player. And actually, you know, to hear Tevez talk about West Ham, he's very, very proud to have been there because he realised he was special and he holds a special place in West Ham fans' hearts. I think you may well find that with this player as well. So actually, when you see it, when he gets towards the end of the career and finishes his career, he probably feel that he's more a hammer than anything else, because that's where he got, like, you know, the true adulation. Whereas go to these other clubs and you're one of many good players who sort of pass through the door.
Completely agree. Right, moving on to the next player, we've got Vladimir Coufal.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I think he's got to be. I think he's had some good games and some iffy games.
It's a position to be improved. Now, I really like him, and I don't want him sold. I think what he brings to the squad, I think what he brings to the team, he's probably got the biggest fighting spirit of anyone in the squad, and I love to see it. And I think at the point when I think we lack a bit of leadership, I think we lack some vocal players at a point where there's some communication issues, maybe within the team. Somebody that has that drive is very important to have around. And see, the thing is, I would have liked some of that leadership to have come from Aaron Cresswell. Because of what's happened with him, it can't and it doesn't. So we need, and I'm not even saying Coufal is particularly vocal, and we do need someone vocal in there, but as someone that leads from experience, someone that is offended when we're losing, or when the game is not going our way. I like that, and so I think there's a real need for that. Unfortunately, I think for the way we probably need to play and the way we should be playing going forward, particularly, I've got to say this, particularly when our wingers are inverted, so they can't cross early on their stronger foot. It's really important that the fullbacks have good technique to be able to deliver the ball consistently well, and I don't think he's that. I think it's been a patchy season.
Yeah, I just had a look at your ratings. You've given him 2 8s, 2 7s, and the rest are 5s and 6s, which indicates you're putting him in the correct category. I think he's had some good games. Statistically, he looks really good. Obviously, his assists, he's racking them up at the minute, and he's getting really good positions. I actually think he should have more because of the positions he's getting in and the opportunities he's getting to cross the ball. I do think he should have one or two more goals set up to his achievements so far this season. I think he's been okay, but what I do think is it highlights the need and possibly the urgency for a new right back, whether it's the January transfer window or we just wait until the summer one. I think he's fine for this year, but I don't want to see Coufal starting as the right back next season, because while he finished last season pretty strong, he was really bad for the first half of last season. And I think it's easy to forget that. And he's been a really good signing in terms of value for money. We've rinsed the value out of Coufal. And even if he was to leave for free in the summer, I think we can say we got what we paid for and more. It's been a big surprise. And right back was always a problem for us. It was a problem for us for many years before Coufal. We had Zabaleta was steady Eddie there. Then he came out the team. Then there was a bit of an issue. Before that, we had Jenkinson, with Victor Moses, Michail Antonio. We've had God knows who playing right back. We've always had, brought in Arbeloa, who then had a fight with Slaven Bilic and then celebrated on Twitter when he was sacked. So the right back's been a bit of a problematic one. We solved it for a period with Coufal, but I feel like it's not a problem yet. But I think there's indicators that if we leave it for another 6 months, year, it will become a problem again because of the lack of depth there, lack of options. So I'm okay with what I've seen from Coufal, but perhaps not blowing away from him. Moving on to our second last one in this episode, Conor Coventry.
Can't rate him, can you? Feel a bit sorry for him. Really? Yeah, feel a bit sorry for him. He's in because of his birth certificate and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And no one. He's a quota. No one wants to be that today. So it's a shame.
Can't disagree with anything you said. Box ticking exercise for the Europa League squad. And lastly, for this episode, we've got Pablo Fornals.
He's been crap. I got to say, awful, absolutely awful. Geo, there's a level of. I think there's a level of endeavour that I expect from Fornals, even when he's awful. And I've offered all sorts of mitigation for him. If you've never seen a Hammer Chat video in your life, please subscribe. Firstly, then I've offered lots in the past. I don't blame Pablo Fornals for where he is now for details I've mentioned in the past. I'm not going to go into now. What I do always expect from him is that even if his technique's a bit off and he's out of position and all those things, I expect him to run his socks off, to work incredibly hard, to be the hardest worker on the pitch. There was a time when you would look at the stats and him and Thomas Souček would run more than anyone else. And they'd be up there. I mean, there was a point where they were the top two hardest workers in the Premier League. Remember the stats from that? When I've seen him now, he's even lost that. He's lost that intent to drive himself forward for all the reasons. I think his time as his time at West Ham unfortunately has come to an end. But I absolutely love him. Let me say that I absolutely love him, and I do understand why it's happened.
I think it's still there. I think that work ethic's still there, but I think it's, like you said, it's what you expect from him. He just looks timid now. There's just nothing left. There's not a shred of confidence about him. And I think below confidence, you've probably got hope and faith. I'm not even sure he's got any of that left in him either. I think he's completely gone. It's just, if you were to look at, if it was your mate, you'd be suggesting that he's dead behind the eyes at the minute and things aren't great. But as a footballer, it's got that kind of impact. We were just looking at him thinking, what's happened out there? And it's not even like he's treading water till he leaves. I think he is trying. It's just, there's just nothing. I don't know what's happened to him. And I think people say he's been moist, and I think there is an element of that. But he was good. When he was moist, he was still good. When he was turned into this sort of defensive winger, he was still playing really well for us. That's gone. So I don't think it's the fact that Moyes has got his hands on him. And I did feel sorry for him. Like I used to joke with you and say that he was this skillful attacking flair player under Pellegrini when he first arrived. And then Moyes Remember when Moyes first came, he didn't play him, did he? Moyes would leave him on the bench, and we were like, oh, and that season, the Roberto season, for context, I always struggle with timelines. It was what season? The Roberto one. And when we won 1-0 away at Chelsea with Martin in goal and all that stuff. Fornals was our best player under Pellegrini. He was the one player that was in good form. Moyes came in and dropped him, and we didn't get off to the best start under Moyes. I remember people saying, put Fornals in, and he did, and he started to he looked good. And over time, he lost that flair. That he wasn't doing the tricks and flicks that we perhaps saw in those clips from Villarreal. And he added that defensive aspect to his game where he would track his runners, he was tackling, and like you said, he was covering all the grass and whatever. So but he was still playing well. He was still a really good player in our team, even though he'd been a bit more cautious, a bit more defensive, if you like. But that's gone as well. He's not even good defensively anymore. And I don't know what's happened. And there's not that many players. When players leave West Ham, sometimes I'm not arsed. I'm like Scamacca. Scamacca left. I wish it worked out. I don't think we should have sold him. But I'll be honest with you, I'm not keeping an eye on how he does in Italy. I see clips now and again of someone will say, oh, he scored another couple of goals. I don't care. I've got no affiliation to Gianluca Scamacca anymore. But when Fornals leaves, I will genuinely hope he goes on and has a fantastic rest of his career wherever he goes. I hope he goes back to Spain. I hope he goes to Real Betis. But I hope wherever he goes, he generally does well. And like I said, I have that affection for some players, and he's someone that I'll have it for, actually. I've given everything to the shirt. I just don't think the club have given him everything in return, and I find that quite sad, actually. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that is episode 1 come to an end. There you go. We've got, it's quite evenly spread in a minute. We've got Bowen and Paqueta at the top, and we've got Areola and Alvarez in there. We've got Aguerd and Coufal, a bit meh. Then we've got 3 players in bit crap with Antonio, Benrahma and Fornals. Then we've got 3 players who can't even rate. So there we go. Out of 6, 7, 9, 10, out of 12 players, a quarter of them are in can't even rate. I mean, that's not particularly enticing. Episode 2 will be on the forum channel, and you can find it on your screen in about 3 seconds. But if you've enjoyed this video, please do drop a like on it by clicking thumbs up. Subscribe to Jammers Chat, and myself and Gonzo. Well, catch you on episode 2.